Hello and welcome to this India Today special. This week marks more than a year of the war in Gaza. Israel strikes against Gaza and the Palestinians that came a year after the Hamas terror attack inside Israel. All of this is raising several concerns, particularly among Palestinians across the world. Can the war be brought to an end? What lies ahead? Joining me now from Cambridge University to get a Palestinian perspective is Dr. Makram Khoury. Thank you very much. Dr. Machul, you are one of the leading voices of the community. I appreciate you joining us. How do you see the events of the last year as they've unfolded? Have they taken you and many others by surprise? Was this a war that was coming, given the intensity of the hostility between Israel and the Palestinians over several years now?
Thank you for having me, Mr. Sardesai. I am unable to describe what has the Israeli occupation been perpetrating in the Gaza Strip as war. If we are talking about the Gaza Strip in particular, then we have been witnessing literally two major crimes. One is the ethnic cleansing and the other one is genocide, and this is according to the conventions and international law. It so happened that I managed to coin a term which can combine these two crimes, and this term is cleansocide. So what we have been witnessing in the last year has been a full-fledged cleansocide in the Palestinian Gaza Strip. Not only strangely enough, but appallingly enough, normally atrocities take place for a day, a week, a month or two. But this cleansocide has been perpetrating for a whole year in front of everybody, including those who normally preach about democracy, human rights, international law, international community, and nobody seems to have been able to stop this cleansocide perpetrated by Netanyahu against the Palestinians. So if you ask me about the root cause is at least 76 years of oppression, occupation, genocide, and ethnic cleansing. You know, Mr. Sardesai, normally in the West in particular, they teach us and they ask us to teach about the psychological, sociological factors behind any crime. And when it comes to Palestinians, it seems that psychology, psychiatry, and sociology don't work. It seems work only when it comes to the Western community. Have anybody asked about the impact of 76 years of ethnic cleansing, genocide, dispossession, robbery of lands, living scattered across the globe in so many refugee camps without right of return? How long can any nation suffer and last under these circumstances? How long can they endure such injustice practiced by practically the whole of the international community?
But you know, two questions arise from what you have just said and use that word cleansocide, and I will come to both of them one by one. One is Israel itself. You say, how long can the Palestinians endure what is being done to them? And you call it cleansocide. There will be those who say, how long can Israel be surrounded by hostile neighbors, some of whom appear more than willing to use terror, armed militias, throw bombs across the border, whether it's from Lebanon or indeed ballistic missiles from Iran? Israel keeps claiming that all that is happening is that they are using the right to self-defense. How do you respond?
Well, this can be a fair question by someone who knows very little about history. History did not start on the 7th of October last year. History started with a date which included another 7, which is 1917, the British colonial Balfour Declaration, granting the Jews homeland in Palestine just because the Europeans did not want them in Europe. Later on, they facilitated the partition of Palestine on the 29th of November 1947. Here is another 7. Then even when the Palestinians accepted even less than what the partition plan suggested and offered to them in 1947, the Israelis didn't want. Sir, Mr. Sardesai, Israel has never accepted any peace deal. Israel has never accepted any plan. You know, the Arafat administration, the late Arafat administration, who was poisoned, he accepted to establish a Palestinian state on 22% of Palestine. And now, not only Netanyahu and all of his fascist members of the government, not only that they do not want to grant the Palestinians 22% of historical Palestine, they said there is no way that we are going to agree to a Palestinian state. What they have been doing is that they want the Palestinian either to be dead or a refugee or a slave. They do not recognize the rights of the Palestinians in their land. This is the trouble, sir. And the whole world, whether it's in India, China, the BRICS, or the Western world, need to understand that it's Israel, which is the occupying power, which has not been agreeing to accept to any peaceful resolution. Mr. Sardesai, let me just reveal to you something. I master Hebrew. I've got 2 degrees from Tel Aviv University, and I know Hebrew and I follow them on a daily basis. More than that, I used to work in the Haaretz newspaper group, and I was the journalist at the time who was shot in the face in the Gaza Strip on the 15th of December 1987, and I announced the first Palestinian Intifada. I know the ins and outs of the Israeli society. I feel really sad that Netanyahu managed to take them from what we can describe as center-right into fascism, to the extent that any one of them, just listen to them in Hebrew or in English, they just do not want any Palestinian to exist. They want to exterminate them.
But Dr. Makram, while I appreciate your anger, I want to ask the other question that comes from your initial remark. You used a word, cleansocide. The world community, and you're in the United Kingdom at the moment, we've seen protests in the US as well, but in general, the world community believes that the Western international community by and large stands behind Israel. They don't see this as cleansocide. They stand by Israel and its right to self-defense. So while you claim that it is the Palestinian people who've been the victims and the Israelis who've been the oppressors, the Western world, a substantial part of it, seems to view Iran, Hamas, the Houthis, the Hezbollah as part of an axis of evil.
Mr. Sardesai, you know there is a proverb in Arabic which says, he beats me and he goes to the judge to cry first, and he beats me to the judge. And this is exactly the occupying Israeli regime. What the occupying Israeli regime is doing is that it's saying, look, now that we want to be genocidal and ethnic cleanse you, you do not need to defend yourself. In fact, if you try to rebel, we will have to beat you, to kill you, and you do not have the right to do anything. In fact, we will claim that we have the right to defend ourselves against the crimes that we are committing against you. You need to be willing slaves. You need to be killed, slaughtered, ethnic cleansed. We need to occupy your land, to kick you out of your land, because we feel that this is our ancestral land. And therefore, we are defending ourselves. Defending ourselves from what? Sir, Mr. Sardesai, let's not forget that the whole of the Israeli system is now standing at the ICJ. This is not something that happened in the past. You know, the Genocide Convention was actually set in order to defend those Jews, the victims of the Europeans or some of the Germans, who in fact perpetrated the most abhorrent crimes against the Jews. And now, after 80 years, the Jews have replaced those Germans or Europeans, and they feel the right to be
Doctor,
genocidal against the Palestinians.
Dr.
When
Makram, Dr. Makram, can I for a moment just stop you for something else, though, that is just, which is contentious? You've written about it and you've said it. You've said, gone ahead and said, Iran needs to develop itself as a nuclear power, as a form of deterrence. There will be those who will say that it is Iran which has spread, as I called it, the so-called axis of evil, that it has made the Middle East in particular a dangerous world. You, on the other hand, seem to suggest that Iran needs to become a nuclear power.
Mr. Sardesai, I thank you for this question. And perhaps to contextualize, I'll mention that A, I am neither Iranian nor Persian. I am neither Muslim nor Shiite. In fact, I'm a Palestinian Christian. And let me tell you this, when I wrote a project, an academic project at Tel Aviv University in my master's degree, I was defending and still am believing in the need to disarm all those countries that actually are members in the nuclear club. But now, having seen that the whole of the international community, those who are supposed to be the defenders of international human rights, not only that have neglected the Palestinians for 8 decades, they are actually complicit with the crimes against the Palestinians. The Arab world is doing nothing to defend the Palestinians. So is the Islamic world. So who else is going to defend the Palestinians? The only party who have been defending the Palestinians have been what we call the resistance front, which include Iran, the Houthis, Hezbollah, some of the Iraqis, some of the Syrians. So these actually are trying their best in order to defend the Palestinians. And the late Hassan Nasrallah, excuse me, Mr. Sardesai, excuse me, the late Hassan Nasrallah,
Yes.
just 1 second, please. The late Hassan Nasrallah said
Yes.
that we will stop the rockets if Netanyahu stops the cleansocide on the Gaza Strip. It's not that the Hezbollah wanted to liberate Palestine. They just said stop the cleansocide in the Gaza Strip, and they have never stopped. And this is why I think that the last resort, in as much as I absolutely hate it, the last resort is that for Iran to declare itself as a nuclear state so that the state of Israel and its allies will be deterred.
But Dr. Makram, can I therefore ask you in conclusion, give me a solution? You know, I'm hearing your point of view, and you have every right to express your anger, but I still want to understand or get a solution from you. We've seen too many innocent lives being lost on both sides, and I reiterate, both sides, on what, especially after what happened on October 7th last year, which surely was also unacceptable. What is the solution, therefore, that you believe is workable to stop the bloodletting of innocents?
That's a fair and moral question, Mr. Sadisai, and I myself, as someone who lived in Jaffa, which actually is only a few minutes from Tel Aviv, and studied at Tel Aviv University, which was actually built on the wreckage of Palestinian villages there. But put this aside, I had hundreds of Jewish Israeli friends. I need them to understand that if they want peace and if they want to be part and parcel of this Middle East, they've got to get rid of their fascist government, stop the cleansocide and end the occupation, and then have peace that the Palestinian Authority and the PLO accepted with Rabin and Peres. And Rabin was assassinated by a Jewish extremist and fascist because Rabin truly wanted peace. So let them go back to the plan of Rabin and sign peace and stop the occupation, at least of the 97 Palestinian land, and let them establish a state and live together next to one another.
Dr. Makram, final question then. What you seem to be calling for is a two-state solution, but I want to ask you in conclusion, do you firmly condemn unequivocally what happened on October 7, 2023? Do you believe that Hamas must return the 102 hostages as a gesture of goodwill and peace if there is to be peace in the region?
I need the Israeli occupation to start condemning all its crimes from 1917 to 1936 to 1947 to 1948 to 1967 to 1987 to 2001, 2003. 2004, let
that's
me
what
first hear
that's
condemnation of the fascist crimes that the Israeli government has been perpetrating for the last 76 years, and then I'll be the best peacenik to bring everybody together to
Doctor
make peace, but based on justice and not fascism.
Dr. Makram, that's whataboutery, isn't it? Do you unequivocally condemn what happened on October 7th? Should the hostages be returned right away? Should that be the first step towards them taking it from there? Hope that it will force the Netanyahu government to come to the dialogue table? Do you agree or not?
I absolutely want all the Israelis who are in Gaza to be released, but not before the Israeli occupation releases tens of thousands of Palestinian prisoners in their prisons. You are overlooking this fact. Continuing in this way and path, totally ignoring the Palestinian right and talking only about Israelis or Jews absolutely does not deserve peace and justice. You need to talk about both sides. Once you have talked about both sides, we can make progress, Mr. Sardesai.
Dr. Makram, for expressing your views, giving us a Palestinian perspective to where you stand. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much from Cambridge University. That's it on this special. Thanks for watching.